I can get you off the street today. I can get you sober today, but he's the savior.
I had nothing else to follow but faith, because at the time I'm watching all my friends at this time disappear.
I still got the PTSD. I still don't sleep at night. I still got all of this stuff, but I got Jesus. Now you get out. Multiple combat tours, Purple Heart. Now the government telling you can't work. You put me in charge of men to lead them into battle, and now you're telling me that I can't go work at Walmart. I'm telling you, veterans out there, man, pick up the phone, call somebody, tell somebody what you're going through, because you don't have to go through it alone. Hey everybody, welcome to the Will Podcast, where we discuss wisdom, inspiration, leadership, and legacy. Today, I'm honored to have a couple of very special guests from Operation Barnabas. We got Mr. Jordan and Mr. James with us today. Gentlemen, I brought you here. Y'all are doing some great work with Operation Barnabas. You know, let's just cut to the chase, right? Like we have a veteran crisis in this country. You know, from 2001 to 2023, we've sent almost 2 million of our service members over into a combat region just with, you know, Operation Enduring Freedom and Operation, you know, Iraqi Freedom. And, you know, it's such a crisis. You know, we all know the number. You know, we say 22 a day. I personally think that it's much higher than that, if we were really to start weeding into it and talking about it in great detail. But let's talk for a minute, man. Tell me a little bit about what Operation Barnabas is doing, and then we'll get into it a little bit.
All right, so Operation Barnabas, the simple version is we help make veterans whole again. And so what that means, it's a very general answer for a very large equation. So anything from homelessness to it's always mentorship. So there's always mentorship, but sometimes it is just mentorship. To transportation, you know, getting them a vehicle, helping them with their vehicle, whether it's repairs or maintenance, family engagement, so getting them back together with their family, schooling, resources. So just if there's a need from the veteran side, we try and fix it, or not fix it. We try and help out with it. And if that's something that we're not qualified to do, let's say they're heavy in addiction or substance abuse, we give them to the professionals, and then we work with them while they're with the professionals, and then they come back to our program. So basically all Operation Barnabas does is helps make veterans whole again. The general answer, that's it. That is the answer, but we do it through faith, action, encouragement, and one-on-one mentoring. So we know and we believe God is the answer. We've seen it work. It works for us. That's why we're able to bring it and pour it back into everybody else and be a witness. But we also know the secret sauce is the one-on-one mentoring.
And I like it. That's good stuff. Tell me a little bit, James. Maybe you can hit on this, man. I've seen some media releases. There's some housing that Operation Barnabas is been building to give veterans a place to transition from the street to a place with some walls and a roof.
Well, right now we got like a program going on where we're trying to get them back on their feet in the best controlled environment as possible. In the past, we had a hotel that was able to give us like 10 rooms for free, like immediately. So we was able to get a veteran. We were able to pretty quickly get them into a spot where they were in a hotel room. So we got an issue solved. Food, another issue solved. We got them going to meetings probably every Tuesday, still today, every Tuesday at 6:30. We at First Baptist Church Orange Park. Shout out to First Baptist Church Orange Park.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, and we was able to start that process of healing. Well, the hotel wasn't in the best area, right? And it was hard to try to get people out the jungle and then tell them, hey, even though when you open your door now, it's right there. Your triggers are right there. Things you're probably running from is right down the hallway.
Sure.
Oh, right under you. So the hotel ended up closing. So we ended up losing those rooms. So we had to brainstorm, like, how can we make this happen? It's possible. It's possible. So we was able to look up a guy who was building tiny homes. I'm pretty sure that was in like Stark.
Yeah. So Alachua County.
Alachua County.
Yep.
So he was building tiny home. We have a property out there on Nightbox Avenue, 387 Old Jennings Road, right off Nightbox.
Okay.
And we're able to put tiny homes in, and it looks like we can put like about
We can put a lot. 'Cause tiny homes are pretty tiny.
They're
Okay.
pretty tiny, so we can put this out. Cost a little over, maybe. There's some people say they can do it cheaper, but $30,000
Okay.
tiny home, right? So we get you in a tiny home. We start the process in a controlled environment. We're gonna have a guy out there from Operation Barnabas, just making sure that you're upholding the standards, because this is real, right? So when you come, hey, we really got to make time to actually try and stop alcohol if that's the problem, or
Sure.
stop drugs, or whatever the problem is. We're going to try to control it in a way that you come off that problem, because if you're in this point, we know that there's an issue. So we try to solve that issue in the community environment. And then from the tiny homes, across the tiny homes, we want to put more um
Long-term housing.
long-term housing,
Yeah.
right?
So more stick built.
Yeah, so you're able to, at that point, move from a tiny home to there. Or if you have a family, we won't put you in a tiny home with
Right.
a family. We're gonna put you over there with a family, and then at that time, we're working on your finances, getting you better with your finances, getting your benefits, getting you in school, hopefully pushing you to get a higher degree. And at that point, man, get you in his position.
You should be
get
able to
you a
walk
house.
out with a mortgage or mortgage free,
Yep.
depending on how some of the programs line up. Because we have programs where veterans can get homes.
Yep.
Obviously, there's a million veterans that want a free home. Everybody wants a free home, but there's certain criteria that you're gonna meet. It's just the luck of the draw basically at that point. But at the end of the day, we know the process, because like myself, I've been through it, and so I know the steps needed to be taken to get a mortgage. Somebody who never thought I'd get a mortgage, so we know you could be the bottom of your life, the rockiest road you got. Your credit can be 100. That just means we have to do a lot more work. But so like I went from a 400 credit score because I was real good at running my credit to the ground, and then still got a house. So we learned how to fix our credit. We learned the ways to, if you will, to play the game of credit, because there's not really a science to it, but there's a process to it,
Sure.
like everything. And so the tiny homes would be about 6 months, give or take, to kind of rehabilitate and get you on a firm foundation, a transitioning point to where most veterans, when they come out, should be, which most of the time none of us are. So once we get you to that place, then we can start pouring into you even more, start showing you what life is actually like. And then that's where you transition to the longer term, which is about 18 months. And from there, that's where he talks about the college, the benefits, the working on your future, your prospects of what's to come. And so from that point, um, 18 months, probably get it done quicker. It just depends. So that's where the fine tuning, per veteran will change. So it'll be situationally based in that aspect for that.
Man, that's awesome. So what I'm hearing is there's hope,
That's right.
right?
So,
Like there's hope, and when so I was in the Marines from 98 to 2002. After coming back from Afghanistan, I just kind of picked up where in nowhere. I thought like, okay, I'm not coming back to Jacksonville. I'm originally from Jacksonville, and then when I come back, there was no plan. I come back.
Yeah.
I came back from Afghanistan. I come back advanced party. I got back to the battalion area, got everything ready for the rest of the battalion to come back when the ships come back, and like I had no plan.
right.
And I knew I was getting out, so went. I checked out, turned in my gear, did that process. Try to turn in a sleeping bag 17 times because they didn't like the one that I was giving them.
Yeah.
It's not clean enough.
Out processing.
Yep. And and I came back to Jacksonville, and I had to start new.
Right.
And I had to figure it out. And I quickly fell into a bottle.
Wow.
And and I stayed in that bottle for a long time. Pretty heavy, pretty hardcore. And then in 2005, I was in a vehicle crash, DUI. Took out a cop car.
Wow.
Thank God that he wasn't severely injured. And the consequences for me could have been much worse. And that's when I kind of got plugged in. I had to.
Right.
Judge says, okay, you need help.
Yeah.
And so I started going to through veteran services over at the Vet Center here in downtown Jacksonville. Right. Started getting some counseling, started getting some help, and then it was a community of men along the journey that, some could relate, some understood where I was coming from, and some just knew Jesus.
Right.
And it's like, hey, listen, I'm not your psychologist, I'm not your psychiatrist. I'm not going to tell you what to take, what not to take, but I can tell you, if you open this Bible and you start reading it with me,
some life-changing medicine,
you can find hope.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so that's just why I love what Operation Barnabas is doing, man, because it's like we can help a lot of good people.
Right.
We can help a lot of people, but if we're not helping them grow in that relationship with Jesus, and Jesus is saving them for eternity.
Yes.
Get
to the point.
I can get you off the street today.
Yeah.
I can get you sober today,
Mm-hmm.
but he's the Savior, and once you got a different purpose and a different perspective, I still got the PTSD. I still don't sleep at night. I still got all of this stuff, but I got Jesus, so I can walk around with a smile and just, okay, what's God got for me today?
Right.
And it's just like, being able to sit here with you guys and talk about where you've been and where he's taking you to, man. It's just a blessing, man. So Jordan, let's start with you.
Okay.
I'll let you take this wherever you want to take it, but
right.
Where
that's dangerous.
How we can hit pause if we need to. No. Where how did you get connected with Barnabas?
Fair enough. A lot of bad choices.
Okay,
that's the easy answer. So I'm Army vet. And I'll be pretty transparent on this. So one thing I've always struggled with, and I've talked with one of my mentors, Tyler and James, about this. I've never felt vet enough. So when I joined, much like most of my generation, I was in 4th grade. Kind of not trying to age you at all. When 01 happened, and I asked my father, I was like, "Man, do you really think the war will still be going on when I turn 18? Because I want to fight for whatever this is. I don't know what this is, but
sure.
my heart hurt, and I had a kid from New York in my class, and I was like, makes me emotional, and I don't know why I feel this way. And ironically enough, I was reading the Bible real heavy at a 4th grade level, so it was just ironic how everything worked out. But he's like, no, wars don't last that long anymore. Well, now here we are. We all know the truth. So I knew by 4th grade I was going to join the Army, and I was going to be like my dad. He was in the Army. My grandfather was in the Navy. So all my family was in the military.
Okay.
And so I knew that's what I was going to do. And I was going to be a lifer. I was going to go on the trail. I was going to be a drill sergeant. I was going to make new recruits. I was going to instill passion because I love people, love building people up. But that's not how life works. So I get to training, and I was medical, so I had a pretty fast training. Get to Fort Sam, loved Fort Sam, had an opportunity to stay at Fort Sam. And then they said, but if you want, you can choose. You can stay here or you can go to Fort Hood. But if you go to Fort Hood, you're going to deploy. I said, well, let's get this out of the way. My dad's over in Al Ramadi at this time. And just psychologically, I want to be with my dad,
Okay.
I'm a young boy. I'm 18. And so I'm like, cool, I don't got to unpack. That's easy. It's too easy. I'll just go to Fort Hood. I get to Fort Hood. The week I get there, a couple days before the first shooting happens. So I'm like, oh man, this is lit. This is crazy. Like, I didn't think this was possible. And so it was disheartening. So anyways, get with my unit. Oh, shoot, man, 2 months in, we're getting ready for deployment. I deploy. I'm 6 months, I think, now in the Army, and I'm already on my way to Kandahar. So I get to Afghanistan, go through what I go through over there, and then I lose a brother back home. I fly back home on emergency leave, deal with that psychological mess, and then I go back. And so when I'm in Kandahar, I'm at a fob. So I'm away from all my friends, all the people that I knew. I was with some of these guys from AIT. So it's just me and another NCO that are with each other at this fob, which is not real. It's not average because I'm so young. I'm such a young soldier at this time. But it just was what it was. And so I didn't really have an outlet. So I was suffering internally, with everything that goes on in Afghanistan. I won't get into that. But the consequences of those choices, I suffered through those. And so the hard part was not having that outlet to talk about. If I talked about it, I felt like I kind of got chastised a little bit,
Okay.
or I wasn't hua enough for everybody.
Yeah.
Because I'm still a young kid. Nobody likes privates. Nobody likes talking about your problems because everybody's got problems. I didn't know it then, but these guys got families, kids, and I mean, I could just imagine now being a father, how tough that would have been. So long story short, I get back. I'm with my rear detachment. It's real brutal experience. And so I end up breaking out after I get back from Afghanistan. Ended up breaking up with the Army. Broke my heart, destroyed me. Didn't want it to happen. My mom back home, she's going through psychological stuff. because all the death. Her son's in Afghanistan. Her other children are young. It's just madness. Everything was just chaos all the way around me. And so I get out. I come back. I'm from Polk County. I'm like, man, what do I do? And so eventually I try and travel. I hurt my mom. And so when I hurt my mom, I realized, man, I need to get out of here. I can't be around people. Something changed in me. I'm not the innocent young boy that I was before I left for the Army. And so through that, I still didn't know how to deal with it. And then I get into the drugs, the violence, the crime, all of that. So to kind of sum that up, fast forward, I'm probably 20, 24, 25, 26 at this time. I get real bad into hard drugs and just that lifestyle. So I'm selling drugs because I think that's the way to make the money to survive. I can't hold down a job, so I can't deal with people. I can't work a normal life. End up while I'm selling drugs, I find out that I'm a fleeing felon fugitive in a whole nother state, and so that broke my heart. So I'm like, man, dang, I didn't think I was that bad of a person, and
Right.
so I'm having a mental torment at this time, and so at that point it was pedal to the metal, just go 100%. If I'm gonna be a criminal, I might as well be a really good criminal because the end result is I'm going to prison, and I might as well get it while I can. So I have a daughter at this time with my wife, who's my current wife, and my current daughter. She hasn't changed. So while I'm dealing with that, she's young, and I'm trying to make enough money to buy a lawyer. And so that's the drugs. I got more drugs and more drugs got involved with more dangerous people, really high caliber people, and just got really scary. But at this time, I'm on drugs, so it doesn't really affect me. And so, long story short, go to jail for the fleeing felon fugitive during COVID. So we fast forward now, I'm probably 27. COVID happens. They drop everything because COVID. Everybody was scared of COVID. At that time, nobody knew what was going on. So God tried to give me a blessing. I get out of jail, which I shouldn't. I signed my papers. I've paid my debt now, but I've signed my papers to go get extradited. That didn't happen. So God gave me a blessing, and then I went right back to doing the same stuff. My wife, she got pregnant again. I was real brutal to my wife. We ended up having a miscarriage. So my wife didn't even want to be with me. But then we got pregnant again with my first son, my oldest son. And so we kind of stayed around, but I still couldn't get sober. So now the internal struggle of getting sober is starting to affect me. So fast forward a little bit further, and then my past starts catching up with me. And so I'm back. My son's born now. I'm still not sober, and I'm trying to get sober, praying to God, please help me get sober. I don't know what to do. I feel like I'm going to destroy my family. I'm still in this lifestyle of dealing with these dangerous people. Dangerous things get involved. I'm moving Airbnb to Airbnb, so I've got to sell enough drugs to make enough money to pay $1,500 a week to stay in an Airbnb. I got to pay enough to like $1,000 a week to get a Turo car. So I'm having to move like a criminal, and it's very draining. And so finally, I just prayed and I prayed and I cried. I'm holding my 4-month-old son at this time. I'm like, please, I need to get sober. I tried to get sober on my own. I become angry. I can't make money if I'm trying to detox. And so I just did not know what to do. Literally the next morning, I remember I made my wife a peanut butter and jelly sandwich, my daughter a PB&J, kissed my son. And for whatever reason, I told my daughter, hey, pack up your stuff. We're going to leave the Airbnb today. I come back to probably 8 SUV unmarked cops, ATF, FBI agents, bomb squad, Tampa Police Department. They raided my house or my Airbnb. They found my Airbnb. They raided it. I was labeled a terrorist. I laugh about it now because it's so far from the truth. Then that's what they believed, and that was their truth. And I understand they had to do their job, but I'm probably the biggest patriot, just a brokenhearted patriot, And so I get arrested in Hillsborough County Jail, and at this point, I told them, "Hey, look, man, I'm a veteran. Why would I deal with this nonsense? Like, yeah, I dealt with drugs, but I wouldn't deal with this nonsense." And they're like, "Well, that's even worse. That's how we know because you're a veteran. You know this stuff. You know how to do this." And James will tell you, James was in this life where he was a bomb tech and stuff like that. And that's what it was. A bomb got involved, and everybody freaks out over a bomb. Which is good reason.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, it's a real good reason to freak out.
Yeah,
So I get labeled this. I get a black sheep label, and so I go to jail. Now I really hate being a veteran. I tried to deal with my claims. I just had a bad breakup with the Army, 6, 7 years before. Tried to deal with my claims 5 years before. And just my mom doesn't understand. I don't understand. My dad doesn't understand. My wife, and nobody understands. So now I'm going to jail because I'm a veteran.
Sure.
And it made it worse.
Yeah.
And so they ended up putting me in a veterans pod. And I'm like, oh, heck no. Like, I don't want to be anywhere around these guys. Best ain't ever happened to me. I got pulled out of general population. I had all this money, but nobody would bond me out. I had a bond. Nobody would bond me out. Nobody wanted anything to do with me. My wife took off to Clay County, which is how I'm here now. My mom didn't want anything to do with me. Everybody was done. I couldn't pay you to bail me out. That's how bad of a person I was at this time. And so I'm in this veterans pod, which is very isolated. Let's say 5 people compared to 100 people in general population. So I'm here, and a Bible shows up. Only book in my little pod at this time. And so I start reading the Bible. Father's Day hits me. My son, I delivered my son. I physically delivered my son from my wife. So I had this super bond with him. And I just fought so hard to get my daughter back. And so Father's Day hits. I'm not with anybody. Nobody will answer the phone call. Can't get a hold of my father. Nobody wants to talk to me. And then I get the Bible on Father's Day, and I'm reading it. I'm reading about Abraham and his son and that story. I'm like, man, that guy's got some respect for God. If he's gonna sacrifice his son for this guy,
Sure, there's
so
some
like,
faith there.
Yeah, so I'm like, who is this guy? So I start reading about obviously Jesus and what God did with Jesus, and when he says his only begotten son, I'm thinking, man, this is my only son, and I would never do that. I wouldn't do that for me. I wouldn't do that for you.
Sure.
I wouldn't do that for anybody. And so it hit me like, man, I just spit in your face.
Yeah.
Like, but you would do that for me. And so I broke down, I cried. And from that moment, I realized I had to change everything about myself. I had to do everything that I would have never done in my regular life.
Right.
And so fast forward 105 days later, I rekindled my relationship with my mother, and she paid $1,000 to bail me out. Mind you, I couldn't pay anybody to bail me out. My mom wasn't making much money. She spent $1,000 to bail me out. I said, you'll never regret this. And now here we are 990 days later of sobriety. I get out, I find Barnabas through a food pantry. I just was resourceful, and I knew I needed to come up here. Found Barnabas through a food pantry, talked to Pastor John Green, got through all the veteran questions, and I got to the kicker question, like, okay, look, man, I'm on bond. Will you still take me? Hey, man, as long as you haven't done X, Y, and Z, you're good to go.
Okay.
I said, great. So I come up here. I was in the Stay Suites, the hotel he was talking about, for probably 30 days. Within that 30 days, we got our first legal car, so I didn't have to pay the Turo anymore.
Right.
So we got a real vehicle now. Within 60 days, I had my wife in an apartment. I spent 2 days in that apartment because 64 days after being out on bond, I had to go back and take my sentencing.
Okay.
So I was able to build my family, get them back, have my kids back, and I was able to get my wife pregnant again. So she thinks I skipped out on the pregnancy, and it was tactful, but I beg to differ. So I'm back in jail, and that's where I'll leave this part of the story. So I go back to jail, finish out my sentencing, but at this point, I'm saved now. I'm righteous. I'm with Barnabas. They're pouring into me. I'm pouring back into them. I'm clean, and I just have to pay my debt back
Sure.
to society. So, and now here we are.
I know.
So that's the short version.
Yeah.
So,
no, I like it, man.
yeah.
So like we our actions will produce
100%.
consequences.
100%.
100% of the time.
100%.
100%.
You know, those
It's inevitable.
Right, but also on the flip side of that, man, you said so much in there. Like when we think of the word consequence, right, just our fallen human nature, right, we take that word as a negative,
Right.
but there's also consequences
Positive.
to walking with the Lord. There's
Right.
there's
He'll grab your
consequences
attention.
for doing the right thing. He'll get you.
100%.
He'll get you.
He'll get your
He'll
attention.
get you. Man,
And he answered my prayers. So that's what people don't understand.
Yo, he
And-
gonna
and-
answer 'em.
And I tell people, jail was an answer to my prayer because I literally and he answered quick because that morning I begged him, I pleaded with him, intervene.
yeah,
I can't do, which is all he wants. He wants us to acknowledge, like, man, I'm the answer.
right.
Just ask me and I'll do
Yeah.
it. Like really ask me and I'll really do it. And it may not be what it looks like for you, but it's gonna be what you want. And I literally said, do something. And
Sure.
I went to jail. Best thing that ever happened to me.
Right. So I fully understand your role as a child of God and
Right.
as a disciple maker. What is your role inside of Barnabas? Like what fancy title do you hold?
Yeah, I got a good fancy title. So when I got out of jail, after finishing out my sentence, I became the first executive assistant. So nobody believes me, but because I'm a big guy, but they try to get me jobs at labor unions. They try to get me trade jobs. I'm like, hey, look, man, my uncle was a carpenter, and he told me a long time ago, if I can use my brain to do what he does, sit at a desk, that's the gig I need to take. So I was always good with technology, connections, computers, and people. And so that's where the administrative role came. So I was an executive assistant for a little bit. And we just kind of built the stuff, built the formulas, used my testimony to kind of shape what it looks like for the next veteran. Because I wasn't the most extreme, but I was a pretty extreme case at that time. And so I dealt with addiction and everything like that. So I was an executive assistant, and then recently we just had a progression in ranks, and so now I'm the chief operating officer. So I literally went from a mentee in Operation Barnabas, straight off the street, straight out of jail, to now I'm a COO, and I'm talking with the sheriff from the same county that I got arrested in. I'm talking with the sheriff here, talking with the sheriff in Clay County. We're all really good friends. I talk with cops now. You know, we're all really good friends too.
Used to run from them,
right? Yeah, I used to run. I used to run from the guys. And now I'm having lunch at probably the most cop infiltrated place in Jacksonville. And where normally I would have got nervous, now it's just like, man, I love these guys. Like, because I get it. Like, I was so nervous because I was doing so much wrong.
Right.
Like my soul was so conflicted. So yeah. So now I'm the COO, and so I like to tell people I'm the cool guy of Operation Barnabas.
Man, I like it.
Yeah.
James, man.
What's up, big dog?
Man, where you from, man?
I'm from the great state of Georgia, you know.
Okay.
Waycross, Georgia. Graduate in 06.
Okay. You young too.
Yeah, yeah. Like he kind of said, when the towers fell, I was going to Southside Christian School at the time, and I just remember we had a little TV right there at the corner, and I just remember for like a month straight, when I walked into the school, we was watching CNN.
That's all you saw.
We was watching you guys go and invade. Like we was watching the Tracers, the Night Vision, and then I would go home, and my parents thought I was sleeping, but I was watching CNN still. Like, it caught me.
Yeah.
Mesmerized me. So I graduate, and then the first thing I do is, grow up in a country town. They scare you with student loans. So I was like, man, I didn't want to put my family in debt. 2 weeks after I graduated, I was in the Army.
Yeah.
And they got me with the whole engineer gig.
Okay.
I heard engineer, and I was like, well, that sounds, smart, right?
Yeah. I'm gonna go build some stuff.
But I didn't know this combat engineer. Right. So I thought I was building stuff to diffusing and arming live mines in basic training.
Okay.
And then next thing you know, I end up in Fort Carson, Colorado. So I'm from Georgia. First time I seen snow was in Missouri. And then I go to Colorado, and I'm like, Lord, what's up? What you doing for me? So I was unfortunately raised by a bunch of war babies. So, war babies, they cope with the best they could cope with, sure. Right? So a bunch of the guys that were my leadership were guys that had been there, done that, and were kind of jaded and messed up in the process, and they kind of taught you. So very early on, I was out of control. Partying, just partying, going crazy. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Just knowing you was going to war.
Sure.
And
it's inevitable.
It's inevitable.
Yeah. Everybody's going.
And the way they paint it.
Yep.
A lot of y'all gonna die.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
So I'm like, man, all right, well, yeah, let's live every day like it's our last. So that's what we were doing while I was coming up through the military. And then one day we deployed to Iraq. And then 3 months into Iraq, they told us we was gonna do we was gonna be the second unit since the Civil War to switch battlefronts. So we went from Iraq to Afghanistan that day.
Wow.
And then we took our Iraq vehicles to Afghanistan.
Yeah.
And it was completely the most wrong thing you could ever, because we trained for Iraq.
Sure.
Then we went to Afghanistan. Our vehicles was top heavy.
Yeah.
They didn't have V-shaped holes.
Right. Whole different climate, whole different terrain.
Totally
Nothing
different
makes sense.
They started running through us like crazy.
Yeah.
So I remember my mom told me about Psalms 91. And that became a very staple into my my DNA at the time, because I had nothing else to follow but faith. Because at the time I'm watching all my friends at this time disappear. when we going back to the base, we're going to all the going home ceremonies. So when the other soldiers dies, you didn't even heard of, they need a representation. And if you was back on base at the time, you was going. You was that representation. So you watch your brothers and sisters get loaded on the plane and come home. So I'm witnessing death left and right. I'm riding back into the truck with my boys who are gone just to get them back to base. So just trying to figure that out. And I remember coming home and getting on that bus, and the SRP site came up. You know, when you go and you get the debrief, they ask you how was it and all this stuff. And I remember a guy was like, don't go talk to the wizard. If you go up there, you talk to the wizard and tell him you had bad dreams or stuff, scared, all that stuff is going to ruin your career. That's before the stigma of PTSD was early on.
Right.
So if you had PTSD, you were crazy.
Right.
You were, you wouldn't get promoted. So we shied away from that.
Yeah.
And we learned other ways to cope. Sure. So
very unhealthy ways.
Super unhealthy.
Okay.
Super unhealthy ways that and I used to blame those guys. Like, why would you teach me stuff like that? I was like 18, 17. You know, come on.
Yeah.
But y'all did the best that y'all knew what to do with what y'all had.
Right.
You know, fairly new PTSD is going on, and people don't know how to deal with anxiety, depression, and they know if they go say something, they're in trouble, and, you know, so they don't say anything. So I go through my whole 10-year career. I go to Seoul, South Korea. As soon as I got back, I had orders to South Korea. Okay. And then I was so messed up in my head, I didn't want to stay anywhere. Yeah. So I told them when I came back, who was deploying next? They was like, well, Fort Hood is deploying. So I went to Fort Hood. And then the colonel learned about me in Kandahar, about my unit. And I went back to the exact same place where I lost all my friends.
Yeah.
To the very other year after that. So when I got back from that one, I was messed up. I was a wreck. Yeah. And they promoted me. And then they gave me kids to get ready for. And I start, you know what I mean, doing the same thing, you know, being rough, teaching the kids how I came up, you know, negative, disgusting stuff, you know what I mean? And that was able to be stuck in me till I got out the military. Went back home. Like you said, didn't have a plan. I got out with 50% disability. Okay. At the time, I already had, a Purple Heart at the time. So I got out. I tried to get a job at CXX. I tried to get a job everywhere. Nobody would hire me. Right. It was like, you got to have experience. How? I graduated and went. So not having experience disqualified me from a lot of jobs. I didn't know about my benefits. I tried the benefit thing. I tried to sue them. Got 90% unemployable. I couldn't work. So it kind of stuck me again. And it's like, what's up? So during that time,
right. So let me stop you here for a second. Yes, so 10 years active duty, multiple combat tours.
Yes.
Just kept volunteering.
Yes.
Like,
I was,
like you just said, hey, I'll join. Mm-hmm. And then you said, I'm going to go back to hell.
Yes.
Because this is the only place where I find peace.
Yeah. Yes, that was it.
You know what I mean? Like, so now you get out, right? So you're multiple combat tours, Purple Heart. And now the government telling you can't work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you want our little piece of change, now you can't work.
Yeah, here's $1,000 a month.
You know, like you put me in charge of men to lead them into battle. And now you're telling me that I can't go work at Walmart.
Thank you for your service.
Thank you for your service, man.
Wow, man. Yeah. Wow. Okay.
So I cracked under pressure.
Sure.
Right? Like,
yeah.
I woke up on my mom's porch with all my aunties and my mom and surrounded me. And they staring at me like, get help.
Yeah.
And I was like, I never wanted to embarrass my family. I always wanted to be a good role model. You know what I mean? And I didn't know what to do. Mm-hmm. So I went to Miami for a 3-month PTSD program. And they said, right, the doctors always used to say, oh, you're going to get 100%. Oh, look at your records. There's no reason why you don't have 100%. So I said,
Mhm.
all right. I go to this program. I went down there. They told me I was going to get 100%. So I was like, okay, well, I'm beginning to see that I need help. Let me stay down here and figure out how I can continue on this path of healing. Well, I got denied after I already got moved into an apartment by the VA. The VA was so sure that I was getting 100% that they moved me in an apartment.
Okay.
And they took my money.
Yeah.
They said they said good if medicated.
Okay.
Because I didn't know how to talk in the CMP exams.
Mm-hmm.
I told them I felt better.
Yeah.
Right. I feel like I'm getting somewhere. And they immediately said good if medicated. So it denied me. I couldn't afford to live there. Went homeless. So I meet my wife at this time, found peace again, a little bit of peace. And we decided to move to Jacksonville. I'm riding down the street and I meet another veteran. And we have the same car. We got Hellcats. And we pull over, we're talking, and he's like, "You okay?" And I was like, "No.
Yeah.
I'm not okay, dude." I was like, I'm at this point, I'm addicted to coke. I'm drinking every night. I'm dragging my wife in it. I'm running from my family. I don't want to go home. I feel embarrassed. I dislike the military. I wasn't wearing, like, if you seen me, but when I got out, you couldn't tell I was in the military. I was so upset.
Right.
And then he was like, "Let's talk to Barnabas." So I'm like, cool. We went to Barnabas. The hurricane hit St. James. And then
No coincidence there.
Immediately that week, I went down to the hurricane for 4 months straight because I immediately knew these guys. I was looking at guys like him, and they were telling me, "Hey, if you do this, if you try this, there's a large chance of success."
Right.
So I went down there and volunteered my time down there.
Okay.
And I fell in love with serving again.
Yeah.
Right. Serving. Right. You know.
He was there for probably 3-4 months straight, week on.
Yep.
1.5 days off.
So I was like,
you volunteered to jump into a different battle.
Yeah.
Something wrong with me. I got and disaster relief. I like that.
Yeah.
That scene, adrenaline junkie. I don't know what's up. This is an adrenaline thing. So
peace in the chaos, my friend.
Yeah.
It's peace in the chaos.
So we do that, and then again, I'm there, but I'm not there.
Yeah.
You know, at this time, he hasn't had the success he's had.
Right.
He's still trying to battle through the process, but I just kept believing, man. I remember my mom, she was just always a person of faith, right?
Okay.
And when I had to look at it in my life, to be where I'm at right now, to be at this point in time, it's got to be faith. There's no way that you could tell me, a guy, I didn't hunt, I didn't shoot, but if you look at my military career, you'll be like, whoa, God gave me that ability, that innate ability that I didn't earn.
Right.
I wasn't that go-getter guy that was super cool, special forces type of guy, but you couldn't tell the difference when it came to combat.
Mm-hmm.
It was just another me.
Right.
And my mom, when they told my mom I got blown up, and they said he's unconscious, we don't know what's wrong with him, we don't know what's going on when we got him traveling, my mom said, "Don't worry, he's okay." Instantly, she told them on the phone, she said, "I'm gonna hang up now, but I'm gonna pray.
Yeah.
But don't you worry, he's okay."
Don't mess with a praying mama.
Hey, I tell you what, man, I remember waking up that day. My boy is 7 beds down from me. He's choking up on his blood. He can't walk. He got his legs shattered at this time. And at the time, I couldn't feel my legs. And I woke up out my sleep, and I began to crawl. I crawled downstairs because there was no nurses on our floor, and I couldn't do nothing for them. So I just started crawling, crawl. I grabbed the nurse. She's like, "What are you doing, Mr. Burrs?" I was like, "Don't worry about me. My boy's choking." So save my boy's life. And then I go back to sleep again, and I wake up, and dude's giving me a Purple Heart. And at that point, I knew. I was like, it's not over yet. I can do this still. It's not. I'm good. So they came up with automatic turrets at the time.
Mm-hmm.
So I didn't have to use my body to turn it. I can just use the joystick.
Yeah.
And then I continued on with crutches, getting hoisted up, started walking again. And then here we go. And then I look back on all that stuff, and I was like, I don't know what kept pushing me. I don't know. It wasn't the Army because I wasn't that guy, right? What is pushing me? Why do I keep getting up? Why am I keep fighting? It's God, right?
Yeah.
It's God. God has a call on a lot of our lives, and a lot of us don't understand what that call is. So I decided to go to Liberty University.
Okay.
And to get my psychology degree
All
with a / in military resilience. And that's because I feel like with a biblical worldview, right, the help we need is right there.
Right.
Right. And when you start to understand that health and dive into that, you can start to see ways to try to battle this thing. So that's what I'm trying to do now for Barnabas. So because Barnabas has been everything for me, right? We learn to get back to our natural, well, not a natural, but our taught instinct into the military where do it together.
Right.
So that's what Barnabas is.
Okay.
We're brother. We're brother, sisterhood, whatever you want to name it. We're a group. We're a club, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
God has us in a group mindset to where we learn and lean on each other to get to where we need to. So that's what we're doing. It's been great. And I got a free house being built for me.
Amen.
Building homes for heroes.
I love it.
Shout out. Thank you.
And Will, James has a fancy title too.
Yeah. So
well, we're gonna get there.
Yeah.
We're gonna get there. So what is your fancy title with Operation Barnabas?
I am the new executive assistant of Operation Barnabas. I'm training to go and broaden the horizons of Operation Barnabas.
Okay.
We kind of have like a formula to how to try to start it. I would say it, but I don't want to get it out there. You know what I mean? But we kind of have a way. And it's first going to start with God, finding a church.
Yeah.
And then moving on from there after we find a church, after we find a mainstay. Because our most important thing is 6:30 every Tuesday.
Every Tuesday.
We're at First Baptist Church of Orange Park.
Right.
We're there.
Yep.
Somebody is there. Somebody's there to listen to you.
Because a lot happens in 1 week.
Man, it's beautiful. I'm not going to say I dislike going, but sometimes I don't want to go, right? I don't want to go every Tuesday.
And that is the PTSD in the veteran community. You don't want to get up and do anything.
Right.
No.
Isolate.
But when you go,
woo,
you tend to find out that something was said that it hit. Somebody random said something that hit you in the back of the head that God said, you hear me now?
Yeah.
Look what he just said. So, and it happens like that, magic. Then you start hearing God's testimonies. Man, I ain't argued with my wife for a month.
Yeah.
Since I started coming here. Like, wow. Why did that happen? Man, I don't know. It just falls off. You know, it just rolls off somebody, rolls onto you, and you begin to just get into this moment, this peace, and you start to listen, you start to learn, you start to apply what you hear. Yeah. And it helps. It helps.
The Holy Spirit starts moving.
It starts moving, man. It
starts moving.
100%.
Man, like, you know, it's so funny, man, because like you know, I went to public school in Duval County, so like we said earlier, you know, I got a limited vocabulary, right? You know, but you talk a lot about legacy in the sense of like we are learning what the generations before us have laid out.
Yes.
We learned what those service members that were a little more senior in rank.
Yes.
You know, how did they do it? You know, like you talk, you know, you talked about it, Jordan. You know, you come from a family of veterans.
Right.
You know, and we're trying to walk into our mentors, our family members, the people that we look to for inspiration, for guidance, for wisdom, and when we go down this other road, you know, and then something happens with some of us where we hit that intersection, and Jesus shows up, and then that legacy starts to change, man. I love what you, man, because you have an entirely different perspective than most people that get that fancy degree up on the wall. And I love the fancy degree. Keep striving, keep going, finish that master's program out.
Sir.
You know, but it's the life experience
Yeah.
that you put on top of that piece of paper.
He got the degree first.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I was that guy, like, man, who's this? No offense, but even if it was a woman or some, no offense to college people who haven't done it, because we all hurt the same, right? We learned that we hurt the same. But man, it's kind of hard for me to look at some kid and he's telling me, well, you should feel differently. Like, what do you know?
Yeah.
What have you been through? But I don't want, you know what I mean? But now when you sit across a guy like me, it's going to be like, what do you mean what I know? Let me tell you what I've been through.
Which is how Barnabas works.
Yeah.
Ironically, to that point, like, because I'll be honest, so like, there's a lot of things you can pick apart in everything that we're all saying, but like with James, one thing I just want people to kind of comprehend is, this guy's a Purple Heart. Let's just start there, right? So that's heavy enough as it is, and he's in Miami and he's getting denied. So Purple Heart who's being denied, like, right? It's not saying that a Purple Heart's any better than anybody else, but it's a Purple Heart and he's getting denied for something that is common sense to everybody else. That's how tough the VA is. So when I meet James, I don't have any of my disability, right? I don't want anything to do with it this time. But one of our friends, Blake, he's talking to me and I trust him and I know he's good with God, and so I'm humoring it. But then I look at James, 'cause I just met James at the same time that I refiled, and I'm like, man, if that guy cannot get it, I'm never gonna get it. Like, I already don't feel veteran enough. I already been denied a million times, trying to say the same thing. I'm just trying to I just don't know how to communicate with these people. And now this guy's not getting it. How am I ever gonna get it? And so that disbelief actually became faith in itself, because then it does happen because somebody more educated than me, somebody who is a mentor, was able to help guide me through that process. Because when you're sitting there trying to talk about all the trauma you went through, you shut down. I mean, it gets brutal trying to do it. And so to have somebody to be able to help you breathe and walk through it is nice. So then when it happens for me, then I'm like, dang, now it's the opposite. So man, if I can do it, if God blessed me for this, he's definitely going to bless him for this.
Sure.
And so I stayed on James. I was like, bro, you've
got
every week. And I'll be honest, the first time,
talking to me about
don't quit.
He was probably the third person I called. I called my mom, I told my wife, and then I told James, and I went to see him, and I was intimidated to go see him. So it's like, man, I don't want our friendship to be ruined because I just got this. And so still psychologically, this PTSD coming up. And so I go to him, I'm like, look, man, I don't want to upset you. And it did upset him. I mean, I saw it in his face the moment I told him.
Sure.
I said, but bro, I just got it, and I know you can get it. And it wasn't that easy. I mean, I had to stay on him every week, and every week I just kept going. And then I said, hey, look, man, I'm about to try and get a house. And then I got denied trying to get a house. I was like, dang, maybe I can't get a house. But then I got a house. And so I was like, all right, bro, you can get a house, bro.
Yeah.
I know you can get a house. So I just stayed on him every week. So I say that to say, like, so much heaviness, and none of this was possible without God.
No.
Like, I couldn't have told these people when I got my house, because I had to do a manual underwriting, which if you've never got a house before, that's a tough way to get a house.
Yeah.
And so they're sitting here asking me like, hey, what did you do for the last 2-3 years of work employment? Now you all know what I did because I just told you, but trying to explain this to these guys, and then they say, well, why were you in jail? Well, then what changed? Well, how did everything get better? And when I told them, I said, look, man, I got sober and I got God.
Amen.
And they were like, man, nobody's ever been that brutally honest with us.
Yeah.
And I'm doing everything they're asking for me to do. I'm giving them the money. I'm fixing my credit. I'm doing this. I said, look, you tell me what to do, I'll do it. So I've done all that. So that plays into part. But then when I told them about God, I was contracted to close in 30 days. And when I first started, and I started the process, it took me probably 63 days, which is always a number for some reason. So when I first decided to get a house, it was about 63 days till I closed. But when I first started, the person I spoke to, they said, your credit's so jacked up, your life is so jacked up, it'll take you at least a year or two before we can even talk about putting you into a house.
Right.
And I threw it away. I was like, well, man,
I want to mess with it.
Don't even come with me.
Yeah.
Don't talk to me about a house, Jordan.
Yeah.
Mhm.
and then I contracted closed 30 days, 60 days after I started.
Yeah.
So
Crazy. And I was like, wait.
Only God. Like,
I was like, wait, what?
and the house that I wanted. Like every house I put a contract on, I put one on 2 of them, and I learned about HOAs real quick. So the one that I didn't take was an HOA.
Okay.
I stayed away from that because I don't want to own my house and then stuff to pay somebody for my grass being brown. You know what I'm saying? If my grass is brown, it's brown. Get over it. And so we got the house I wanted. So I didn't want a garage. I wanted a man cave. I call it a kid cave so my wife will let me hang out in there.
Sure.
So that's what I wanted in this house. It had that. The garage was gutted out. It was a 500 square foot extra room. Had all the bedroom, had all the space. I knew way before I ever got my disability exactly what my house would look like. So yeah, definitely God. I mean,
no, that's it. You know, and so what I teach people and what I try to show and to communicate. So I run a ministry at our church, the Springs Church over here on 17 in Orange Park. And we do started out as your typical 12-step recovery program. And what we've learned through kind of the evolution of doing this and growing deeper in our faith and deeper in our walk with Jesus, that it ain't recovery, it's discipleship.
Right.
You know, it's friendship, it's community, and it's
community.
You know, because the guy you see today is not the guy that lived in 2005.
Right.
You know, and it's like when we communicate, like, no, just do what I say.
Right.
Because what I'm communicating is what I've learned from this little black book.
Right.
And we can walk this journey together. You're not going to get to where I'm at in an instant.
Nope.
But God is going to take you where he wants you to go.
And when they learn that fact, man, it's a beautiful thing to know that your journey is different from his journey is different from mine. And that old song back in the day, oh, I have a friend in Jesus. When you really get to lean on that, all my griefs to bear, it's like, what are we holding on griefs for?
Right.
Like all my friends that I give it to Jesus. And I ask God to order my steps every day.
Amen.
And it seems like, you know, whatever's going on, whatever the magic is happening, people's lives are changing around us, with us. And it's like at this point, man, just lean on me. You know what I mean? And see what happens.
Man, I thank God regularly for everything that I've ever been through.
Everything.
Thank God I don't look like what I've been through.
You know?
I know that's right. I know that's right.
Right, because there's a lot of things that I know were outside of his will.
100%.
But he kept me alive through it.
Man, I should have been dead a lot.
And now I can use it.
Right.
You know? Because you got a perspective that I don't have.
Right.
So you can sit down with that guy.
Right, exactly.
You know, who's picking up a needle and throwing powder in his nose.
Who's labeled
doing all
a terrorist.
These things.
Yeah.
Their life around from that.
Right, yeah.
You know, like now I'm on the list. Just hanging out with you.
I
You
know,
know,
that's right. You're being monitored.
You know, but so like that's like that don't go away.
No.
Right. But the identity,
right,
that comes to you through Jesus Christ is way more powerful than the identity that Uncle Sam put on you.
And it's crazy that, you know, we're called Operation Barnabas because Barnabas, you know, took Paul under his wing. Saul to Paul took Paul under his wing to the disciples, or the apostles, I'm sorry, because nobody wanted to mess with Paul because this guy is just murdering everybody. Like, it's a trap, you know, that's what everybody thought.
Yeah.
And Barnabas is like, hey, you know, he's got the cloud, he's got the space. Like, look, man, this guy checks out, dude. I've watched this guy. He's got it. He's with the Holy Spirit. He's with this. Everything we're trying to do, he's with it. And I vouch for him. So before I even knew that part of the Bible, I had people that were Barnabases for me, like the sheriff of the same county that I was arrested in. He was a Barnabas for me. He said, hey, look, man, I've read this guy's story and I feel his genuine, heartfelt like desire. He's good. And so when a sheriff of a county that you get arrested in vouches for you, everybody looks at you different. All the colonels, all the brass, all the civilians, they're like, dang, man, weren't we supposed to not like this guy?
That's a testimony there.
Yeah, but this guy, like, and he's a God-fearing man.
Yeah.
You know, shout out to Chad Chronister, you know, totally was a disciple of God, did what his passion was, and he put things in work for God and Jesus before he even knew what it was going to touch.
Yeah.
And I'm super grateful for that.
Man, I love it.
Yeah.
I love it, man. And it's when God blesses you with a platform, with an opportunity, it's, you know, it's not for us to take advantage of the blessings, you know. Do I just look here like what we're doing at DeVore Capital?
Right.
You know, like we do construction, we do real estate, we do land development, like we do all kinds of stuff. What do you want? You want to build a neighborhood? You want a new roof? We got you. We do that. You want to start a business? We do business consulting. Like we do all of these things, right? But when me and the CEO, Scott DeVore, sat down and he says, hey, man, you know, I want you to do a podcast.
This is awesome.
Here it is.
That's crazy.
You know what I'm saying?
And look what you're doing.
And I said, well, that's cool, man. I said, well, I could talk about stuff.
Right.
I said, that stuff is going to fade away.
Right.
You know, we can be successful in business and we can be successful in nonprofits. We can be successful in kingdom business.
You don't have to be broke to love Jesus.
When you know what I mean?
Try to tell, like, the way the world paints it is.
You gotta be broke.
Like
you gotta be a broke Christian. Like, no way,
No,
man. Like,
they act like it's not a lot of us out there. Like, on the contrary,
man.
there's a lot of good. There's still good people out here.
100%.
100%.
Yeah.
You just
It's
don't get lost in it. We're still out here.
Right.
Yeah.
You know, and I would say that, you know, from a place of encouragement, right? Because veterans are going to watch this.
right.
You know, there's going to be family members of veterans that are going to watch this.
Moms. Yeah.
You know, and I tell vets this all the time. Like, listen, I get it.
I get it.
You don't want to talk to nobody.
Yeah.
Because you were taught not to talk to nobody.
We are afraid.
Don't go talk to the wizard.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And I'm saying, like, my relationship with Jesus is talking.
Yep.
Yeah.
Hey.
Like, that is a prayer life. So if my Lord and Savior, the creator of all things, is saying, talk to me, I'm telling you, veterans out there, man, pick up the phone, call somebody, tell somebody what you're going through, because you don't have to go through it alone.
Sure
There's Barnabases out there. Yeah. There's Operation Barnabas out there. There's churches, there's groups, there's people that will help you get to where you need to go. And you don't have to do it alone. You don't have to sit in isolation, because it's the worst thing that we can do.
Yeah.
Is to get lost in our thoughts.
Yeah.
You know, so when we surround, I love the terms you know, like, you know, mentee and mentor.
Yeah.
Right? You know, like that shouldn't be a unique thing.
No.
You know, that should be for every man or woman that are trying to walk out their faith and grow in their relationship, right? Who is your mentor? You know? And it's like, I always ask the question, like, okay, who is discipling you? And who are you discipling?
And that's also something not to take lightly, because you got to be very careful who's your mentor.
Right.
Because I had a mentor in the streets.
Oh, yeah.
Terrible lifestyle.
Sure.
Terrible choices. He thought dope dealing was the way to make the money.
Yeah.
Well, I learned real quick, that's not the way to make a life. You end up in prison. I mean, you lose your life. Right. So who is your mentor? Like, because we always have mentors. We may not even know we have mentors, but, like, you have to know who's pouring into you.
Right.
You have to be very careful.
Dude, guys, man, I want to say, man, it's been a blessing. I wish we could sit here for another 6-7 hours and just talk this thing out. But before we go, man, I want you to look right in that camera, and I want you to tell the world how they can help Operation Barnabas.
So I'll break it down to two things. So we need mentors and we need money. Money to help the vet that we haven't met yet to build this village. Obviously, it takes money to do infrastructure, plumbing, electrical, tiny houses. Tiny houses, $30,000. And then you got to add all the other stuff. It's a lot of fees that come into that. So just to paint a picture, it takes us about $5,000 to help one veteran, give or take. So just to kind of set your bar on that. But even $10, $20 a month is nothing too small, because that'll duplicate and multiply. So money's for that, and you go to operationbarnabas.com. You can find our donate tab. It's pretty much everywhere on the website. You click that, and then also on operationbarnabas.com. Get involved. You can find that again anywhere on the website. Fill out a mentor application. Our mentor officer, Tyler, will get with you. We always need mentors. And you don't have to be a veteran. You don't have to have any affiliation with the military. You may just be a good person. You may just be a Christ follower. You may just be a patriot. Tyler will decide whether or not you meet the criteria. But we have mentor training if you don't, to get you into that position. But anybody's welcome at our meetings. Tuesday night, 6:30 p.m., 1140 Kingsley Avenue, Orange Park, Florida, Building C, a.k.a. First Baptist Church of Orange Park. So you can show up there any Tuesday at 6:30 p.m., 1830, and we'll be able to educate you more on your involvement with Operation Barnabas.
Dude, I love it. James, 30 seconds. Got any closing words, my friend?
Also, we're beginning to come out with some merchandise. I just want to tell y'all one thing about it. You can ask them about me. I take this serious. These are people's lives at stake. Yeah. So when it comes to handling money and doing stuff with money, we're trying to make a brand. So when you buy stuff from us, do know that your money is going to make it happen. I'm not playing no games. You hear the nonprofit space is kind of tricky. You hear the pits of the vipers in that, and they are out there. But one thing you can know, that we're not going to play around. We're going to make it happen. And thank you for allowing us to come on this beautiful platform, man. And I appreciate the Make sure you holler at the lady behind us. Thank you. And God bless.
No, we appreciate it. All right, everybody. Again, this is Will, and I hope you enjoyed our time together today on the Will Podcast, where we discuss wisdom, inspiration, leadership, and legacy. Think about who you can be a blessing to today, and don't wait on it. Just step into it. Amen.